Welcome, everyone, to Therapeutic Astrology Podcast. Today, with me, Mana, a therapeutic astrologer, but also with Lauren Donelson, another therapeutic astrologer. Lauren is a psychotherapist, astrologer, and intuitive healer. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited. I mean, we do the same sort of thing. We must say we are colleagues in this multi-layered business brain. We have two Pisces beings that is a very multi-layered um, archetype. And I'm so excited about this. Sometimes I wonder why other people can't see it. Like when I've been in therapy, which I have for a long time and I still am, I wish that I could speak with my therapist about astrology. And if I sometimes do, because it's such a part of my language to speak astrology, then I mean, the therapist won't respond, won't really understand what I'm talking about. And I mean, then it's going to take a long time if I have to unfold every single player in astrology. So I just feel this is so unique. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I completely agree with you 100%, which is part of why I do what I do. And yeah, I mean, the first time I had like a real astrology reading from a seasoned astrologer, it was like unbelievable
Yeah.
and really made me feel like I wanted to bring it to my therapist. And kind of similar to what you're saying, I didn't ultimately at the time, but I knew that if I did, it would be exactly like you're saying. We would be speaking two different languages, and it wouldn't mean much to her, even though she was incredibly supportive and helpful. But yeah, I just really, really felt like the two belonged together.
Yeah, and what you also do is IFS, internal family systems work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that we've spoken a lot about on this podcast. And I just feel it is such a natural match.
Mm-hmm.
But let me hear you talk. I just know that I'm all for what you stand for. That's how I feel. So, but let me hear how would you present your work with both therapy, IFS, and astrology.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like IFS to me is such a wonderful match with astrology in the sense that I really feel like our charts are a reflection of different parts of us. And in IFS we use a lot of parts language, like part of me this, part of me that. And as I started, getting exposed to IFS and learning it first as a client and then as a therapist later, I was seeing my chart as I was getting to know parts of me. Like I have a Mars Jupiter conjunction in my 10th house. I have a lot of like ambitious parts and parts that can effort really strongly. And I also have, highly sensitive parts and intuitive parts. And often those parts can be in conflict. I think they're in better relationship now. Um, but yeah, just kind of seeing my chart through that lens naturally, even before I knew what IFS was, and then kind of bringing in the IFS later and really seeing like, oh, like this is a map of people's parts and the really strong aspects in our chart, like first house or 10th house placements or really strong aspects, like those are often parts that are at the forefront or parts that are really loud or we know really well, or even parts that we're so blended. That's an IFS term. Blended means like we're kind of like infused. We don't have much separation. Like those parts that we might not even consider to be parts initially, we're just like, oh, that's just me. um, that is often really reflected in the chart, and having the parts lens can help us be in better relationship with all kinds of parts.
Yeah. And so, okay, so one thing is my excitement for it all, but there's still there's still so much mystery. How can it be that I find myself, if you just keep it to the Piscean archetype, which is a big one, they all are. So, I mean, it's always a blend when you have the whole chart, but sometimes it's nice to just drill down and say, okay, this is a lot of my themes. We can actually know about that beforehand if you know the Piscean archetype. And then when I find myself in that complex, I mean, where would you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I love about IFS is that it's totally personal to each individual, even within an arc, like a large archetype like Pisces. Like if you read about the Pisces archetype, you might read words like dreamy or creative or artistic or intuitive. And I mean, I think a lot of Pisces probably don't feel like that. Through the IFS lens, we can see like what parts might be getting in the way or like blocking our intuitive access. And when we do healing with those parts through IFS, we can really return to that intuitive Pisces nature, that archetype. And that's really what I've seen with myself and with my clients is that like as I do healing work, I feel more like myself and the more natural like expression of my chart comes through and it just is easier and has more flow and more fun. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it is still mind-boggling to me, a bit of a mystery how I will get there. I mean, it's because it's someone else can describe it for me. That's the astrology. It can actually be said out loud by someone else, and but I'm feeling it on the inside. And then you're right, then the healing is then gonna make me feel more and more myself.
Yeah.
But still, it's like a mystery. How did I end up repeating, yeah, archetypal patterns? It's like and this is a Pisces conundrum. Like, am I in charge of this? It doesn't seem that way in a way, right?
Yeah. Yes, true.
And so, but tell me, Lauren, does people seek you out because you are an astrologer, or because you're a healer, or because you're a psychotherapist?
I think there's a lot of IFS therapists out there, and I think probably why most people choose to work with me is because I'm bringing in the astrology and the energy work into it. IFS is a beautiful model. It can absolutely stand on its own. It doesn't need astrology. It doesn't need energy work to be effective. And
Yeah,
when we can layer on the richness of astrology, just to focus on astrology here, um, it comes alive so much, so much more depth, so much more complexity. And, a lot of my clients, even if they're not Pisces, they are highly sensitive or intuitive people. And they do need the support of astrology. Like, and that's, to me, it's like, it's there. So why wouldn't we use it? Yeah, I
yeah,
think it adds a richness to the work.
yeah. And for me, it's again, it's the being understood. Like there are some things you don't even have to explain. Maybe sometimes it's nice to give words to it, of course, but sometimes it can also feel like a struggle to explain. And it's just such a shortcut, right? Like to,
Yeah.
I get that. That's your Pluto and Scorpio generation. I mean, that's the whole thing. I get it, right?
That's all that needs to be said in a sense is like, yeah, we're part of the Pluto and Scorpio generation. We know what that means without words. And
Yeah.
as someone that has Mercury in Pisces,
Yeah.
explaining is often not my favorite favorite thing to do. I tend to be like, let's just experience it so then we can know it in our bodies and then
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about it. But I
Mhm.
know, other people have different, configurations and they need an explanation or they need some more verbal context. So,
No,
either way it's
I
has
think this
merit.
is, yeah, but you're touching on a really good point here because what I've also experienced with clients who were just there for the therapy, uh, then sometimes if they would bring up astrology, it would be in a way to distance themselves a little bit from the experience, and that can be used productively as well because sometimes we need some protection. I mean, and then we can
Yeah.
talk a little astrology. Um, but then we could have spoken about something else as well, to distance ourselves. Where
Right.
where it becomes really potent, I think, is what you're talking about with the experience of it, like you're meeting it inside yourself.
Yes, exactly. Like meeting my Taurus moon from the inside is
Yeah.
completely different than reading about, being stubborn and grounded. It's totally different.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like just upholding space, what does it have to say? How is it from its perspective? And so I feel like sharing so much with you, but I also want to like ask you questions. I don't know which way to go. Should I
Yeah.
talk or should I ask?
Yeah, share with me a little bit. That sounds fun.
Okay. I just come to think about um at least in evolutionary astrology, often it's said that Pluto in the fourth house where I have it, that it's the way that you experience your childhood. It's sometimes really emphasized that it doesn't have to be that the parents are whatever they could be to not to have neglected the child in some way, but that it's from your perception, the child's perception, that it has been a horrible childhood, for example, and and that's something that I've been annoyed with because actually, uh, is in a way you can say it's always like that, and but it's also the most important thing is how does each when we talk about the chart here, we talk about the placements, and then those placements are then converted into parts into us, just so people are following. So it's a part inside of me who is now represented by the Pluto in the fourth house. And if I
Right.
talk to that part, then it's that part's truth that is the most important. And so it's just sometimes I feel like astrology also needs more knowledge about psychology and therapy and
Yeah.
how the psyche works.
Yeah, it's like, we're both Leo rising, so I also have Pluto in the fourth house in Scorpio. And I think absolutely like part of me could feel that. Part of me could feel emotional neglect, but other parts of me could feel like deeply supported and stable and nurtured and cared for. And I
Mm.
think that's where, like you're saying, layering in the psychology, in my case, IFS in particular, where it's like
Yeah.
we can contain multitudes and our chart reflects that, where it's like Pluto in the fourth house doesn't only mean one thing. And
Mm.
even if it did, there are other parts who have different experiences. And it can all be true. Like it can
Yeah.
be true that like maybe I wasn't emotionally supported in the way I needed to. It could also be true that like I had a lot of resources and a lot of support in other ways and I did feel loved in other ways. Like I think that's where like the psychology can be really really supportive in astrology and not kind of like pigeonholing a placement to meaning one thing.
Yeah.
But again, because especially if we're using like the archetypal language, it's like archetypes are very vast.
Yeah.
An archetype is not is many things but not narrow at all.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the issue when clients will say, "What is it?" Well,
Yeah.
it's a lot of things. And then again, therapy is so helpful because then we can look inside and see. I wonder what it is like. And then
Yeah.
if you start, if when the part starts to speak, then we can hear. Okay, I wonder where that comes from in the chat, and we can play around with the analysis
Yeah.
of that. You also do healing work. I mean, I was speaking about Pisces being multi-layered. It's
Mhm.
also in terms of vocation, it's multi-directional. There has to be there usually are more things because Pisces is everything. So
Yeah.
it's like there are more interest growing out of you. Do you want to share just what is it you do with your healing work?
Yeah. In the Uranus and Taurus years that we are just coming out of, that really woke up the Taurus part of my chart in a way that, maybe I had been connected to it somewhat before then, but over the last, 7 years, it's really woken up my connection to plants and plant medicine, psychedelics in particular, and all plants really, but also, medicinal psychedelic plants.
Mhm.
And it really the healing that I've received in working with plants has then allowed me to kind of open up my like intuitive abilities even more and use Reiki and other like energy healing along with plants a lot of times. So yeah, I mean when it's appropriate, I bring that into my work and I really like have so much reverence for plants and the natural world in general and animals and the spirit of animals and just really There again, the explaining. It's hard to explain, but just kind of weaving that into the existing work has really made it so much richer. And for me personally, as I've really connected into the natural world again via plants mostly, I felt such a deep sense of belonging and safety and connection that I think therapy and astrology alone, I was almost there. I was pretty close, but kind of anchoring myself in the natural world just completely, I mean, it changed my life, you know, not to be dramatic, but it just completely changed everything for me. And I I'm so grateful to Uranus for coming through my 10th house and hitting all. I have lots of Taurus energy in my chart, and it really just like woke up those energies inside of me.
I'm like, please be dramatic. Please be I want to hear all about it. Yeah, because I saw your chart and I was wondering because that's not very long ago where Uranus was on that 29th degree of your
Yeah.
Taurus planets. That's really
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So it so before that as well as I hear you, but also at the 29th degree,
Yeah.
that most interesting thing must have happened.
Yeah. As I lean traditional Hellenistic.
Okay.
So Jupiter ruling my eighth house, where I have a lot of energy there. All my Pisces planets are in my eighth and in the whole sign format. And I really have been, again, just opening up my intuitive abilities. Like I'm studying animal communication and I experience plant communication, and it's just really widened my ability to communicate with the unseen and
Ah,
then to kind of bring that into the work, to support clients, like whether it's a plant spirit that can be helpful or a loved one that has crossed over. um, yeah,
yeah, okay, so
that was
it's
a
a
big transit for me.
yeah, it must have been. And so we're talking about Taurus and that's maybe yeah, you can say more about that, but and then it's also your Mercury there in Pisces,
Yeah.
having to do with that mediumship and
Yeah.
being a channel and yeah,
Yeah, and Uranus is actually squaring my Mercury right now, like as we're recording. So,
right. Yeah.
um, yeah, it's interesting too to have just experienced Uranus conjoining all of my Taurus planets, and now it's gonna square all my Pisces planets. So Uranus is not done with me.
Not. It's
But
just
yes,
not over yet.
it's
Oh man.
definitely it absolutely is like waking up that Mercury because it's a little
Mm.
sleepy over there.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but now I'm seeing more of the gifts brought forward, and also seeing my life through a different lens of, you know, probably some form of neurodivergence and yeah, and like, you know, just thinking and feeling differently my whole life. And again, now really kind of getting my Mercury in Pisces in a different way that like, yeah, I've always been able to like feel and hear and see things. And
Mm.
that's part of having Mercury in Pisces. It's normal for Mercury in Pisces, but it's not like the norm culturally right now. Um, yeah,
It's
that makes
it's
sense.
not. I have like a list of questions now and comments. Okay. So first of all, I wanted to comment on just what you're also saying throughout this, that it's in a way you feel like it's easier to experience than to verbalize
Yeah.
all of this. And I just want to say that I'm really with you. I'm a Pisces too, but my Mercury is actually in Aries. But
Mm.
I have the same experience, and I have a friend also who has her Mercury in Pisces, and we've spoken about this phenomena of it's like we can't get it out. But I feel the same. I don't know. But I am a podcast, and I'm trying to get it out, even though I mean, so maybe that's why with my Mercury in Aries that I'm actually attempting it. But I have the same inner experience of there. It is so vast. There's so much,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what I say, it's just it's like it's only with one tongue. I heard this metaphor one time, something like that, that I can only say one thing at a time. And it's like in my
Yeah.
internal setup, it's like there should be so many voices and so many languages. And
Yeah.
that's how it feels. So it's always not satisfactory to
Yeah.
express myself.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I've realized that I'm a musician and
Okay.
I can express through music really well. And I feel like that's also a gift of Mercury and Pisces is not maybe words are not my best medium, but I can hang out in the verbal if I need to.
That's beautiful with music. Ah, if I had known, I would have asked you to bring a song or something.
Uh,
Yeah. And also it touches on one of my comments because I was thinking about this thing with Mercury and Pisces where in a way it's hard to explain yourself, but then it's also the symbol of where you someone who can actually reach masses with their communication.
yeah, I mean, I think that we all, maybe not every single person, but a lot of people really are touched through music,
Mm,
and we can all know what a song means even if there are no words.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we happen to be living in a time where the verbal, the strong mercurials, the Mercury in Gemini and the Mercury in Virgo, that's really really valuable right now. And that's beautiful too in its own ways, but it's not the only way we can communicate. And again, I think as Uranus is hanging out with my Mercury, like I'm really seeing that now, that like instead of being so frustrated that like I can't verbally express the way I want to sometimes, just seeing like, yeah, I can't do that, but like I play a bunch of instruments and I can sing, and like that's pretty cool. Just seeing like the different gifts of different Mercuries, and just because it's
So
not
cool.
what's really valuable now, like in our tech era, doesn't make it not important and not a special gift that people have.
Yeah. So that's another theme I wanted to ask you about. If you are able to go fully in on what we're talking about now in your work life, or do you face restrictions? Like being a psychotherapist registered in one way, can you then do astrology or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's interesting that we're having this conversation because I was born under the Saturn Neptune conjunction, and it's
In
repeating right
Capricorn,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's exact almost to the minute in my chart, so it's really a part of a big part of me,
Yeah.
um, to kind of be looking at systems and deciding like which ones are supportive of me and which ones are oppressive.
Yeah.
um, and so just recently over the last several months I've really um, seen how being in the psychotherapy lane has restricted me to some extent. I've been integrating astrology into therapy for years, and I felt really grounded in that, in the sense of like astrology is a spiritual belief just as is Christianity or Judaism or any other religion, and no one would bat an eye about those systems being integrated into therapy. And so
Hmm.
I've always, decided if I ever got reported, that's the argument I would use, is
Hmm.
that like it would be discrimination to not include astrology if it's part of someone's spiritual belief system. And then the energy work piece, I have really started to kind of separate that out, into like a separate business, because even though to me, in its true form, it can all go together.
Yeah.
Um, but there are limitations because psychotherapy can't really hold energy work right now. I'm seeing.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and yeah, so I do have, people that I work with for energy work and more, the plant medicine and the mediumship, that side of my work. And then I kind of have like astrology and therapy over here. And astrology is actually a really nice like bridge between it all.
Yeah, that's right. And it came from it arose from when you were speaking about how right now maybe it's more prioritized with a more mercurial way of expressing yourself. I mean, music is very popular as well, so it's probably always gonna be that way. But but just in terms of yeah, like Uranus going into Gemini and it being very maybe a little bit more mechanistic than we would prefer it to be, then we're bringing something else to the table. And you're
Yeah.
right to point to then the Neptune Saturn. That's yeah, that's a huge new paradigm that we. So this is why I think it's so important that we speak together and that we bring this. Maybe I
Yeah.
hope someone's gonna hear this and find it interesting, of course, and be part of this a different way to approach healing, because for my vantage point it's so logical, but that's because I have more access to my right brain hemisphere
Yeah.
and not so much the left. um and so it's still a counterculture uh,
Yeah.
t- to talk about astrology in such a serious way that we are. It is very serious because we are in pain when we come to therapy. Usually
Yeah.
it's heartbreak, it's trauma, and so we don't want it to be just this pop culturally understanding of astrology. We want it to be
Yeah.
accepted as something, a potential healing way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I love a good, astrology meme or whatever here and there. It does dilute it to an extent. I think there's lots of ways to look at it, right? Where it can be what draws people in when they feel resonance in like a meme or a TikTok or something. And also like it's hard sometimes to look at astrology content and see like I see where you're coming from. And also, like, this is so nuanced.
Mhm.
And this is just like a small, like, sliver of like what this could mean. And I think all astrologers sharing content, like we all do our best to,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it is like a serious discipline in a sense. And I think especially when you're integrating it with healing, like we're taking it beyond just like the information. We're taking it
Yeah.
beyond just the mercurial. We're bringing it into like the body and into, really like healing and reprocessing something, like using it as a support for that. And it is more serious than just like I'm a Pisces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understandable because it is so relatable and
Hmm.
interesting. And oh, yeah, some information you can make into interesting memes, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh, but then when you're in therapy, it's like, oh, it's that part of me that's never been seen, or it's that part of me
Totally.
that I'm always struggling to let go of.
Hmm.
I always get this way when I'm in that kind of relationship, and it's so much more personal. So what are you gonna do here in the Saturn Neptune conjunction new era? What do you feel? You must have meditated a lot on that when it's so
Yeah.
potent in your chart.
I think I'm already, kind of existing outside of the system, outside of the Saturnian system anyway, even
Yeah,
just by integrating astrology. Like to me, that again, like we're saying, it's so natural that it doesn't feel outside of the system. But I know for a lot of people, it is. It's
yeah,
even just that is a lot.
yeah,
Um, but I think I'm really hoping to continue to like dissolve more boundaries
yeah,
and do more healing work outside of therapy, where it's not like Lauren the therapist, it's just me as like an embodied channel that has again access to plant medicine and spirit and land and connection with the animate world and
mm,
bringing in sound and again also concepts from IFS and astrology and just letting go of some of the lines, the Saturnian lines and boundaries that, again, as someone with Saturn and Capricorn, like I understand the system, I understand the value. Obviously, like I am a licensed therapist, like I hold that, and also seeing that, like, the institution doesn't give us our gifts. Like our gifts are innate and we can develop our gifts, whatever they are, not just like psychic gifts, whatever gifts we have, like they don't belong to the institution, like to the university or whatever that grants the degree. Like they are ours. And I think that's the Neptune piece that's like really been speaking to me is that like I can exist outside of the institution as just me, as like a person. Um, Again, after spending years of my career more in the like Saturnian realm, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I feel strongly about this topic of educations and I mean, what is really giving us our credentials?
Mhm.
It's not that you showed up for the exam. I mean, it's not that someone for a few minutes thought you were good enough. I mean, but that's because we've become so oriented towards that materialistic
Yeah.
reality that we forget, of course, it's like we were somehow born to it, or it kind of arose from somewhere inside of us, and it's not the outside reward that actually is the gift,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Totally. And like, and also seeing the value in the Saturnian structures, like holding people accountable or like having
Yeah.
standards for care. Like, there is
Sure.
value in
Yeah.
that. And there are limitations.
Yeah.
Because at least, where I live, it's like if you have time and money, pretty much like you can become a therapist. That's what
Yeah.
you need is time and money.
Yes.
But that doesn't make you a healer. Um, I think that again, that's kind of like the Neptune piece of like there's the boundary, but also like there's something beyond the boundary that the institution can't give us. That has to
Yeah.
come from you.
It's that I think it's so important what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, and I love that critique. It is like that sometimes. I don't want to think about it, but it is like that. It's like you can actually buy yourself an education,
Yeah,
and then you're that. So it's money. It's based
absolutely.
on money, and yeah,
Yeah. And I just think about all of the amazing healers out there that don't have access to the system and maybe even wouldn't want to, but even if they did, they couldn't.
yeah.
But people that have amazing healing gifts, that like again are just not they're not in the system in the same way that I am.
So that's definitely a hope I have for the new era that some of this is gonna break down and more truth are
Mhm.
gonna come forth. That like
Yeah,
what you're talking about with our true gifts, that those are what are valued rather than just a
yeah,
certificate that you can buy. And I'm with you that of course we need the books and we need the training. It's not
hmm
that, it's just it's a matter of priority here and what's been
yeah,
emphasized the most.
yeah, yeah. And I think when we are more attuned to how we feel, we can feel the difference. We can feel the difference between someone that just has a lot of letters or credentials versus someone who's really embodied in the work that they do. And it's funny, I actually had like my first real experience of this with my first IFS therapist, where
Okay.
she um, wasn't a licensed psychotherapist, but it used to be that you could practice, and you still can, but they're changing the rules around it, where you could go through IFS training even if you weren't a therapist. So she wasn't like a licensed therapist, but she had IFS training.
Mhm.
And I was really drawn to her and my parts. I had parts of me that were like, well, like she doesn't have therapy training. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's
Yeah.
that's going to be like. But I was like, I feel really drawn to her, so I'm going to give it a try. And she's the most incredible therapist I've ever had. Because she embodies the work and she knows IFS in her body from experience and she knows how to guide. And again, that was my first kind of like lived, and again, this is years ago, but lived experience of like, it's not the credential that means anything. It's the person and how they embody the work. And again, my hope is, especially with like the Aries vibe of like, kind of like being at the start of something, right? Like actually truly being in like a new era
Yeah.
of like, I hope we can lean into as a collective, like, how do I feel when I'm with this person versus what's their list of qualifications? Or like, can I hold both in a nuanced way, you know?
I was so excited about what you're talking about. And it's I think that's must be the same because they probably have the same everywhere with when it's IFS. That's the same standards they're trying to adhere to. So it's the same. I've been in that. Um, I mean, had I know people who just did the IFS training
Mhm.
and then now they're like, oh, should I do a psychotherapist training or not? Because they
Yeah.
already have it, but they can't really move forward without it.
Yeah.
It's the same with me, actually. I have a NAM training, and I did that also just before I think they decided
Yeah.
to go all psychotherapists on
Uh-huh.
it. So you need, just to people out there who don't know what we're talking about, you need to be a psychotherapist, and then you can take these IFS
Hmm.
and NAM or other modalities. But you sometimes, I mean, I don't know, some modalities might, some techniques might, some schools might let you in without the psychotherapist
Yeah.
training, and then you're up against that. Oh, what can I rely on the most? That's the Capricorn, the Saturn. What can I rely on the
Right.
most, right? And then you're like, oh well, it's probably better to be registered. More people have vouched
Right.
for you somehow, and true to a certain extent, because we don't know what people have been through, and I think that should also be a
Absolutely.
priority, or be like something we care about. But I've lived through stuff, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and like I really do try to be pretty like transparent about myself on my website and on like my social media, like because of that exact reason. Like when someone has gone through something that you're going through, there's so much more connection around it, right? Like the lived experience, the
Yeah.
kind of like the Chiron of it all.
Yeah.
um it's just, yeah, it's a huge component of it. And I yeah, again, I totally like, I'm really holding both the like,
Mm,
yeah, like if someone is a psychotherapist, that means people have vouched for them. Like
yeah.
there is some, there's been some effort involved, and also it's not everything.
And also maybe not. I mean, maybe maybe they just showed up at the right time, and maybe, I
Right.
mean, we can't. I don't, but that's just from my point of view, that I don't really rely on that. But
Yeah.
then, of course, it is hard to know what. But I think you had a good point about then when we tune in and feel, and you also felt your way through that
Yeah.
therapist that you gave as an example there. So actually, Lauren, I want to ask you about more about embodiment, because
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you work a lot with the body.
I think a lot of times, like with psychotherapy in particular, like we can be really up here, like in our heads, and we can think that we understand or we think that we know, but it's not until we have like an embodied experience of something that we, embody the knowledge. So, like, I feel like psychedelics are like the perfect example where, like, we can read about a psychedelic experience. Like, I had a vision of an ancestor, or I talked to this plant, or I saw my own death, right? Like, those are like really like wild concepts if you haven't experienced that. But then when you're sitting with a medicine for hours and you feel in your body like, I'm in connection with this plant, or I'm feeling the pain of my ancestor, it becomes so much more real, which for me has been a pretty long journey, which is interesting given that I'm kind of like an emotional person by nature, right? With a lot of Pisces. But like emoting and embodiment are different, right? So anyway, as I've gotten really comfortable like being in my body for long periods of time, that's where I experience my intuition. I experience my intuition all over my body, like not just up in my third eye, but I experience it, in my solar plexus or in my womb or in my legs or, by feeling. And I don't know, like being connected to my intuition is, at least now, as of today, like that feels like my life's work for myself and helping other people on that path, and getting to know all the things that are in the way of that. And I feel like the road there is getting into the body and experiencing and embodiment.
Okay, so one comment and one question.
Sure.
A comment is just about the the Pisces, and yeah, we have an emotional, sensitive nature. But I was just thinking when you were speaking, I was thinking, yeah, but it's other people's emotions.
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of usually the setup is
Yeah.
to be so sensitive to others. And so the
Yeah.
journey is to actually, I mean, that's the whole deal, to be aware of yourself as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and to be able to hold your own emotions without being overwhelmed by them. I
Yes.
feel like that's one of my early gifts of IFS was learning how to be with emotions without just going straight into overwhelm.
Right.
Because I think as a sensitive Pisces, when you're picking up a lot from other people, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of placements feel that, like a lot of like Sun Neptune, Moon Neptune, people with strong moons, water moons, lots of people feel that, not just us Pisces.
No, sure. I mean, but it is interesting. I mean, but at least what you said in the beginning when you said conjunction to Neptune, then for me that's still the Piscean archetype, right?
Yeah.
But of
Yeah.
course, you could have a very prominent moon placement, and that would bring also a certain kind of
Hmm.
sensitivity. I like to think of it somewhat differently. Um, but anyway, you were speaking about embodiment. What did I what did I want to say about that? Yeah, no, I had a question about ancestors. And how do you, so is that how you work with it, that you have to feel the pain of the ancestors?
Yes and no. So my experience, and there's lots of people experience their ancestors in different ways, but one example is like if I have like an irrational, quote unquote, irrational fear that doesn't really make sense given my life. Like let's say I'm like really really anxious when I'm driving, but I've never had a car accident. That could be like just a general awareness that like driving is there's some risk involved, but when my nervous system is going crazy when I'm driving, even though I've never experienced that, that could be a clue that we hold something ancestral that's getting triggered by driving.
Yeah.
Um, and with the IFS process, when we meet that part, when we build a relationship with it, if it holds ancestral energy, it will reveal that. And a lot of times it is somatic, where we're feeling it. We feel the panic in our bodies
Mm.
and we can release it.
Mhm.
So as we like reprocess the pain in our own bodies, we can then either hand that back to an ancestor or help the line to like clear it out. So
Ah.
it's cleared out of our own system, but then also cleared out of the line.
Mm.
Um, so that's why one of the reasons I love working with ancestral energy so much is that it's not just about me, it's about clearing it out of the line as well.
Yeah.
Um, I have a lot of Jewish ancestry, so I've done a lot of work
Mm.
around like pain around the Holocaust and
Yeah.
a lot of holding, like a lot of like screams that had to be held, a lot of nervousness that had to be held, just a lot of that's what happens in my body is just a lot of holding that
Mm.
through this process has been able to like release and bring in a lot more like ease and spaciousness.
Mm. Ah, I was struggling earlier to think about the Taurus in what you're speaking about here, other than, of course, the embodiment now, but before. But now I'm thinking, it's also the container of this. And when you're speaking about energy work or healing work, then the Taurus is such a container for that.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful work, and I think my sense is, having a fourth house, Pluto, has something to do with that interest and that ability to connect with ancestors and help other people with that too.
Yeah, actually, because I didn't know you were a Hellenistic astrologer, so I actually use another house system. So I have different other houses for you. But that's
Oh,
also,
interesting.
yeah, that's always interesting, right? Just to, okay,
Mhm.
because I mean, it's fun to look at placements. Just, I mean, sometimes you have to look at them in both houses, or think of them
Totally.
and reflect them in both houses. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, One is on your website. Uh, you have this lower line that keeps moving, and it says, "You're magic, babe. Pure magic. You're magic, babe. Pure magic. You're magic, babe." It keeps going. You're magic, babe. Pure magic. Where does that come from, and what do you intend with that?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's just kind of like cute and silly. But on a more serious level, I think that's what the point of this work is. It's like returning people to their magic.
Mm,
And to me, it's via our intuition that we experience magic. And I think, and I feel like this is cliche, but it's really true. Like everyone is magic. Like really, truly, like magic is within us.
yeah.
And kind of going back to like one of the first things we talked about, my first astrology reading, it was so incredible for someone to be like, he didn't use these exact words, but pretty close. He was like, you are magic. Like, you have magic in you. And to be like, oh, like, I know that, but you can see that. And like, no one else had ever said anything like that to me. Like, you have magic in you. And I just, just kind of took that into my own work of like, the point to me of all the healing is to like be in the magic, to like be in the magic of our intuition. So that's why I have that
Yeah.
silly little thing
I
on there.
love that. I love that. And I love the origin story of it. Like it stems back from an incredible experience you have had, and
Yeah.
then also your life philosophy. And it is the philosophy always, I think, in astrology, right? And maybe even in a lot of spiritual therapeutic work, it is that we are that, and we have that capital self. But
Hmm.
then there are just so many things, so
Yeah.
many views in a way that are hindering us to see
Yeah.
that, and so many strategies, so many traps to fall into. And when you speak about overwhelm, I completely relate.
Yeah.
Like the Pisces overwhelm. Oh, oh, now
Yeah.
a rejection, and again, I'm just gonna go into, I don't know, suicidal mode almost sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just so incorporated, these automatic ways of dealing with the world, that and behind that there's the magic.
Totally. Yeah, it's like an unlearning mostly.
Yeah.
Like it's there. We just kind of have to like uncover it little by
Yeah.
little.
And I also wanted to ask you, I didn't send you questions beforehand because you seemed so confident and let's just show up and speak. But I don't know now if you maybe wanted to have had this question before. But I actually want to ask you, what are you most angry about in the world, in your life in general?
I am most angry about environmental destruction
Ah,
because I feel like every other injustice that I'm also angry about
yeah.
can sort of come back to that, where it's like,
Mm,
if we don't have a planet to live on, then like our human rights, of course, I want rights and freedom and thriving for all, but I feel like it really has to start at like environmental justice, where it's like, we have to have a planet to live on. We have to have air
yeah.
and water and food and
Yeah.
yeah, and the land and the plants and most of the animals, right? Like we're here so much longer before us, and I think we owe them our like respect and reverence and to not destroy their habitats. And so yeah, that is definitely what I'm most angry about.
How does it show up for you as a passion or for the work that you do? How does it show up in your daily life?
A few ways. I think my anger has been a vehicle to having a lot of like respect and connection for the land that I live on
Mm,
and building a relationship with it and spending
mm,
time like listening to it. And I'm certainly no like master gardener, but I heard an ask from the land to like start growing something, like grow anything. So
mm,
and again, like I really like did not grow up around like growing anything. So even keeping my house plants, there was like a learning curve with that. Um, but I've started to like grow herbs and just like get to know like the different types of trees in my neighborhood. Definitely on the spiritual end of like having relationships with mushrooms and other plants and having like a spiritual connection with them where yes, I'm asking for help, but I'm also listening and willing to be like a voice, like a human voice for plants and animals that that don't have the same voice, although they're definitely speaking to us
Okay, yeah,
in numbers of ways. I mean, even just like the weather pattern, like the earth is speaking for sure, but sometimes us humans, which I have a lot of compassion for, of course, like we need it to be heard, like explained in human terms, like right, going back to our like explanation
yeah,
conversation and just yeah, like talking about plants, talking about the magic of them. um I know that's part of my life's work too, is
wonderful.
sharing about nature and yeah.
And so what are nature saying? I'm curious now. What does the weather say right now? I mean, where you are?
Yeah, I think there's a big invitation to listen. I can hear like parts of me being like, well, people don't know how to listen. How? But
Yeah,
we do know. And actually, it's funny, I was thinking about this morning, that I feel like IFS really taught me how to listen deeply to
yeah,
myself, to
yeah,
hear all of my parts,
yeah.
and especially when I'm in self energy, which is the IFS, concept for like in a compassionate, open state. I can approach a tree or an animal and just let them know I'm here and I'm open and I'm curious and just see if
Mm,
anything comes through, like see if there's a message.
mm,
Um, and we can't listen without openness. So
mm.
if we approach a tree, for example, and we just assume that we're not going to hear anything or we're not going to feel anything, then we're not. But if we can get into an open state and listen, some really amazing things have come through. I highly recommend that practice. But yeah, that's kind of the overarching message that I've been receiving, is like it's time to listen.
This is so good. This is so good. I mean, I still want to talk, but I'm a podcaster. But I'm with you. I'm so with you on the learning to listen through IFS. I also feel IFS has something incredible magic to it. Like, where did, I mean, Richard Schwartz, who kind of
Mm,
figured it out, but also received it and this was transmitted to him. And it must have been because so many people picked it up in their own unique
yeah,
way. And so I really value that as well. That so in a way, when you're speaking, I'm thinking we talk about parts of ourselves, different parts that are in or around our bodies, and we
yeah,
connect to them and listen to them. But then it could also be consciousnesses, states, different
totally.
states, and so that's also in nature. And then we have
Yeah,
that whole embodied nature, ensouled world
yeah.
in a way. So it's in and around us, and it's everywhere where we are able to listen. It's just a little. Sometimes it's a little closer when it's in your own what you identify with being, and so you have to
Absolutely.
train more when you have to listen to a tree or something.
Yeah,
Maybe just a thought.
yeah, yeah. But whatever we show up for, like that relationship is going to build.
Yeah,
And so, maybe you don't hear anything from the tree the first time, but if you keep
yeah,
going back,
yeah,
something will happen. I feel
yeah,
confident in that.
yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's really good. I feel you give us something to work on. Um, you don't want to sing a song, do you?
Parts of me are like, no,
Oh,
don't do it.
I just feel I have to ask if there was anything musical that could come out of you. It's so very welcome. I wanted to know that.
I do have my Native American flute right here. I could play for just a moment if
I
you were
love
open to that.
So
Okay.
open.
Okay.
See how open I am. Pure openness.
Are you sure you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, are you asking yourself or me?
You.
Oh,
I've played on Zoom before, so the sound should be okay.
okay.
We'll see.
Is it over? I was like, sorry. I was going to say thank you, but I wasn't sure. Maybe next you would pull out another instrument.
Just a little phrase.
Thank you
To
so much.
close
No,
off.
it's so good. Oh, it's so good. I'm really glad to have that on there. It should be like that. It should be always. It should be like talking and then music,
I
but not
agree.
like a music I put on. It should be like everyone should just be able to play music. No, thank you
Well,
for
thank you
that,
so much
Lauren.
for having me.
Yeah, and I wanted to just say one last thing is that I don't know if you saw me earlier. I was throwing around these tarot cards. Maybe it
Oh,
was under the video, but because I can't find it now, you have to trust me with which card that I drew. So I drew a card for you to like what energy, just like give me an image of you sort of drawing, and I don't know where I put the card, but the card is two of water, so it's a tarot of the spirit, so it's based on Rider Waite Smith, but it's a little different. But it's that must be two of cups,
yeah.
and so in two of water, it's like the heart of hearts. It's the heart
Mm,
of hearts. It's really so loving, it's so devoted, so it's called their name. It's called Sacred Chord. Sacred
mm.
Chord. So it's when it's two, it's attraction. When it's water, it's so emotional and it's so pure. So the heart of hearts opens here with you. How about
That's
that?
really beautiful. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mm.
I also, I have that book, Tarot of the Spirit. So
You
I
do?
appreciate. Yeah, I
Oh
love.
my
That's my
gosh.
favorite tarot book. Yeah,
Me too. It's
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 so
like
beautiful.
it's the deck that's spoken the most to me. So I'm
Yeah,
so happy to have had that layer onto what is also
yeah,
good. But this just like again, it speaks to something else in you because it's so artistic.
it is. It's a really special deck and book.
Yeah. Yeah. Lauren Donelson, therapeutic astrologer, like myself. You are magic, baby. Thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for
with
having
us.
me.
Thank you.